All right, and then I add her in.
Yeah, once you live,
Do I send it to her?
I believe you can. Yeah.
Yo, 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 what's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's up, y'all? What's good?
You live right now.
Yep, yep, yep. I think I can add her this way. Let's get it. I'm gonna put my email right here. I'm gonna email my. I'm gonna pin my email to the top of the chat too. What's up, Bree?
What's going on? What's going on? How are ya?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's what's up.
Yes, excited.
Yeah, me too. You done ducked off and got there, turned up, didn't you?
Yeah, look, man, went out here, went to law school, crazy.
That's nuts. But see, it happens like that. Like 4 years, you can look up. I'm like, damn, I could have been a lawyer by now. You know what I'm saying? I
Hey,
could have been a damn doctor 8 years later.
I'm telling you. But you the expert at what you do. You printed my shirts for my senior project. I was at Queen's University of Charlotte. I did my senior project in design, and you printed my shirts for that.
I remember. I feel like didn't we meet at a gas station?
Yep, we did.
Yeah,
Yes, this is
yeah,
back in the day. Uh-huh.
yeah. We met at a gas station because like we were late or whatever. But no, that's what's up, bro. To see that growth is just epic.
Right.
Proud of you.
Yeah, proud of you too. You're doing great
You know
things.
what I'm saying?
And congratulations on the beautiful family.
Appreciate
Come
it.
on, yes. Good stuff.
Trying to
Good
do
stuff.
it. That's what it's about. Like I'm a full-time father, so it's like, it puts all this stuff into perspective and just kind
Right.
of like does help direct you. You know what I mean, into what you end up wanting to do. Do I even have my headphones? Okay. So yeah, it is pretty fun. I'm gonna hold my phone because it might get a little weird with the sound because I
Okay.
forgot my
No worries.
headphones.
I know I got a whole
But
mixer
yeah,
with tripod. But yeah, what's going on? Let's get into it.
let's get into it. So yeah, I mean, we've just been, a big part of what we've been always done has just been, working with brands, whether it be brand consulting or just like printing. Started obviously printing, and let me know if my audio doesn't work. But
Mhm.
yeah, so just the more and more that we dive down into that kind of market, we've been, itching to have conversations that can just kind of like help support people beyond just the prints on t-shirts, from like kind of
Right.
like an educational standpoint. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, like you've like we were just saying, is like, so let me just give you the floor, let you introduce yourself, you get what I'm
Okay.
saying, to everybody that's here, and then just kind of, and then we'll just have a conversation.
Perfect. Sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Brieanna Singletary. I am the owner and lead attorney at Brieanna Bugatti Legal P.C. There's a little business consulting component of it, but I'm really focused on trademarks, copyrights, and like business, I guess, contract law. I guess you would say really like entrepreneurship is really what I really focus on, really what I try to help people with. And my background is streetwear, fashion, that's my background. So that niche is kind of what I try to pull into what I do when it comes to trademarks and copyrights. And yeah, so, we talked about a little bit the biggest three mistakes that brands make, that businesses, companies can make, especially in, the apparel, clothing side of things. And as you grow and you want to build a legacy, you know what I'm saying? So when I think of these three big mistakes is like, where do people go wrong? Where do I see some of my clients go wrong? Where have I may have gone wrong in building my business when it comes to making sure that there is a legacy that I can pass down, create generational wealth, and I can let my brand grow organically and what's it called? Efficiently and effectively, the best way. So for me, the three biggest things, and I do want to add in one on the trademark end because I know you have a lot of creatives that really like learn from you and learn from what you do. But so the biggest one, contracts, making sure you have contracts. Two, I'm going to say trademark and copyright, because there is a creative piece to you creating really special and unique designs, as well as even patterns to a certain extent, that there may be copyright protection in that. A lot of people don't talk about it because I'm gonna be honest, on the lawyer end, we don't make as much money on like artsy copyrights as much as like music. You see a lot more like music, melodies, stuff like that. So people don't talk about it as much, but I think it's really important. And then I would say the third one is like the business structure. So like LLC, EIN, bank accounts. And as like a little nugget, I would really just say, know what you know, what you don't know, and stop trying to do it all. So those are really the main things.
Paying a lawyer.
Look,
All of this, you know what I'm saying? All of this is funded by paying a lawyer because, my lawyer, he had just retired. So, but, before that, he was telling me that, a lot of his clients came from LegalZoom. A lot of his clients came from people who had already spent $800 and $900 kind of just going through the ropes. Because even if you fill out the trademark paperwork yourself, it's still going to cost you, what, $425 to file or something like that. Like whatever
if you file it right.
are. If you file it right, you get what I'm saying? And then there's no, take backs with that. Like you have to be able to communicate, and, that communication can cost thousands of dollars. So, just paying, paying a lawyer is so important. And that's why from a brand perspective, like, I don't always suggest, I always suggest having this conversation first. Anytime I'm talking brand development, I always go legal, social, creative.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of like my hierarchy is like legal, social, creative. Everything legal may not necessarily get done before you start.
Absolutely.
But it always has to be a conversation from the first dollar that you're making, so that at least whatever you're making is something's going towards it, because it does dictate what lasts and what doesn't,
Absolutely.
And, even from like a very practical perspective, like, when we own the Family Matters trademark, you know what I mean? We had very limited protection with the digital apparel marks. You get what I'm saying? So it was like, it wasn't like, and it was, things like that can dictate what a company's image, over time. And, what retains value is whatever you own, you know, until you truly have it on paper. It's not to say that somebody's like, encounter a lot of people that come from the perspective of, it's like somebody's going to steal it. Like, understand the effort that it goes into protect it is something that everybody has to put into. It's not somebody can just snatch it off your plate. They still have to send the pictures of them using it first. You know what I'm saying? They still have to have the dates and the screenshots from the website, and to be able to actually, prove that they were the first person to use it. You know what I mean? And that could take years. It could take, minimum 6 months, not 9 months. And that's why, it takes 9 months. And I kind of like, I equate that to like building a child. You get what I'm saying? I equate like a brand. You get what I'm saying? If like when it's in capacity, I treat it like a child, and it might grow in like a dog years or something like that. But but that's essentially like how it, kind of the commitment that you have to put into calling yourself something or creating something, And like, I didn't do it for 3 years. We didn't have a trademark for 3 or 4 years probably. We were just out here because it costs, you gotta want to spend $1,500, you get what I'm saying, for the legal, and then $500 for the other. So, or for creative stuff. So yeah, so and I'm excited to talk about the trademark and copyright thing, because it does get overlooked, the creative side, even by me, mainly because I don't have exposure to it. Because like you said, there's not a lot of people that even it's not the whole thing is money driven at the end of the day. Even the legal the legal entity of pursuing one of these violations, cost, you get what I'm saying? Like, don't just look,
it'll eat your money up.
Real life story. There was a Adidas ad that went out, you get what I'm saying, where they had done some family thing. It said family, and the font that they used, like, no bullshit, the A looked like a 4. It didn't have a third leg. It didn't have a second leg. So it was like an A that was in the font. Like, it had looked like a 4. You get what I'm saying? And like people were sending it to me like, oh, they're biting. And I never participate in that because like we have unlimited capacity for coming up with ideas. Like, you know, anybody could come up with anything. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And the way it looks like I'm not into they stole, you know, that guy's always a step behind. That person, if you're, you know, I never want to be that person. That was my idea, or I could have done it better at first, because the person that's always saying that is a person that in reality is always a step behind. And I don't want to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? I never want to feel like that. Like, oh, so it's like, I don't even really, you know, take any like, you know, duplications as like even in that way almost, you know. But so I don't even come from that lens, but I sent it to my lawyer and I was just like, hey, you know, this is like kind of close to my mark, like, you know, hard clothing at that, like, I mean, what's going on? And he's like, can you prove that you lost money because of it? You get what I'm saying? And I was like I could, you know what I'm saying, but like, I was like, I mean, I could, you feel me? But like, what are we talking? He was like, well, look, he said that would cost upwards of, I think he said, either $100,000 or $200,000 to pursue. Absolutely. He said that would cost you about $200,000 to pursue. He said, because I said maybe like $10,000. You know what I'm saying? I said, what if it's like 10 grand? You know what I mean? Something like that. He was like, well, that would cost you. So he said, is spending $200,000 to pursue it worth your $10,000 what you lost? And I'm like, no. Right. So, you know, he's like, that's it. You know what I mean? End the story. So, you know, even in that realm, it's like, that's like, understand what we're talking. You get what I'm saying? Like, a shocking moment for me from a business perspective was when I went to the Bank of America and they're like, oh, you know, the small business department, you go in. And, you can't even have the conversation if you're not generating $250,000. Like, that's the first question. The first question. They need to know. You know right. The first question. Are you generating $250,000 or more? I'm like, no. You get what I'm saying? Like, barely, not even, you know what I mean? Not even on the radar. So I was like, oh shit. Like, that's like kind of like was my first, like, you know, okay, well, that's the mark. You feel me? That's what I got to be at minimum, you know, and just kind of like start from there. So, yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited. And, you know, I just want to acknowledge we were a minute late. I had some technical difficulties. You know, I'll make sure that I get that squared away, and yeah, we'll look to wrap it up around noon. If it goes, you know, beyond, if we have, you know, if we're flowing, you know, I know our schedule's I got a lot of stuff to do, but you know, great conversation. My weakness. Love it. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, so the contracts. So let's talk contracts. Like, what are do you have a list of, like, you know, from a practical perspective, like a set of templates, let's say, that every creative, especially, you know, we are talking brands, we're talking people, mainly merchandise. You get what I'm saying? A lot of times it's going to boil down like merchandising. It's not just like, you know, clothing brand. A lot of these things can be determined slang. I think it's really important in business to understand that, like, which department, what category you're in, what class you're determined as, the code, the number to your business, you know, because you can do 50 million things, but you can't even, you got to protect it in each of those. Right. Exactly. You get them? You want to do 50 million things. If they don't align, if they aren't in the same category, then you have to pay another class. That's separate class. You get what I'm saying? So you want to do all those things. You're building in a very expensive brand from a legal standpoint, just from fees. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, and there's some people that, like, it's no problem because they approach it considering money in mind. You get what I'm saying? Considering loans, considering shit like that. Like, so it a lot of times gets talked about because people aren't trying to come up from a bottom up kind of approach. You know what I mean? A lot of times it just boils down to, you gotta have a lawyer, you gotta have this. Right. But, you know, in this day and age, when you're trying to really build something that can last, like you said, to build, you know, a legacy, it's important that protection comes into play. And, you know, I categorize protection, you know. So talk about the contracts that, like, you know, every creative that's merchandising their message should, you know, keep on them, or like have on. So first I'm going to go into like paper contracts, like a contract you may have, like, I don't know, with the manufacturer, or you may have the vendor contract, service contract. And then I do want to touch on some website stuff, because especially over COVID, things have changed. And you need to have certain things on your website to make sure you don't get in trouble in the long run, right? Because people are getting real intense about the trip on the website. Example. Oh yeah, so like, you need to have terms and conditions on your website, like some little link that can open up to terms and conditions. You need to have a privacy policy. And another big thing now, you have to have the cookies policy. So I'm sure now when you go on those websites, I mean, you can go on prettylittlething.com, try to get you a little cute, you know, hot girl summer outfit,
it's going to pop up and it's going to say, do you accept these cookies? And all
Yeah.
these contracts I'm talking about for your website are literally just things that are letting the consumers know how their information is being used, because it's becoming a bigger deal, especially with e-commerce. I mean, now you have things you can chat, you have text messages. All this stuff goes into how people are using your information on the web in order to sell you something, right? In
Exactly.
order to market things. And they are getting more concrete and more serious about those laws. So you need to make sure you have those things on there. So as you grow, you know, I think Beyonce got in a little bit of trouble for it too, with the site she had that was kind of like recognizing Black businesses. She didn't have one of those contracts on there and had to hurry up and whip it up. Because as we grow, as more and more people get online every single day, they're making sure that people aren't being, what's it called? There's not predatory marketing or sales happening. So that's on the website side. Those are things you need to have. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, nothing new is under the sun, y'all. You could go find one of these contracts on Google, mix it around so it needs to say what you need to say. Of course, you know, if you have a highly technical website, I would definitely recommend getting a lawyer or someone to write those things out for you. But if it's something pretty plain, I think even some sites that help you build your site, you can add those on.
Absolutely.
So
like terms and conditions, like that, Squarespace, Shopify. If they don't, I'm sure that they will damn near by the end of this conversation, because it's coming to a point where, you know what I mean, the websites have to comply, and I'm interested to see kind of like cookies things, as you say, the cookies and the privacy policies and the terms and conditions, like those links being there. You know, and we had to check ourselves too. We had a no refund at one point. We still have a no refund policy, but like it wasn't posted actually, and we had said like it was posted and it wasn't, and we were like, oh crap, you get what I'm saying? So like we realized that our agreement wasn't, you know, it was however, so we had to add that link to our invoices and to, you know, make sure that everything's signed off in that manner too. You know, what you were saying about the cookies thing is interesting to me, because I'm interested to see like at what point are they gonna, you know, how are they gonna maneuver asking for permission or not? You know, like I think their attempt to like ask for permission for us, but like if it's not, like I can't move on to the website, then what really is it? You know, like what's really, because I get that with the whole, you know, from what I know, from my, you know, lens of whatever I've seen in my echo chamber of social media around like the Apple and the Facebook thing, you know, it's just about that. It's like about like we can't just let you pretty much, but Apple wasn't trying to like protect us. Apple was like, you need to break us off pretty much. And Facebook was like, nah. Then Apple was like, well then fuck it then. And then, you know, so like that's the way I interpreted it, was that Apple wanted their cut. You get what I'm saying, from the store, and like they were, you know, but you know, from a from a website perspective, definitely got to check with that and make sure that all those things are there, even if it's you know, the box is checked, and like contracts and that, you know, and looping it into that. So what else, like the side, because that counts, that's kind of like contractual. You get what I'm saying? Agreements, is like those links on the website.
So yeah, that's for the website side. On the paper side, I do want to say, to start off, contracts aren't as complicated sometimes as we make them. It always helps you the more formal you make it. But at the end of the day, a contract is really just an agreement between two parties that something's going to happen at some time for the exchange of some type of value. That's it. That's why you can barter things. That's why you can trade things. That's why someone can pay someone else. Someone can do a service for someone else. I do a service. You do a service. We agree that it's the same value and it's going to happen at this time, at this date. So that's on the lowest level. You know, I'm talking like handshake agreement, da 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 da. But when it comes to writing things down, which is very important for business owners, especially now, because everything's moving too fast. We don't have time to keep handshaking, remembering what's happening. So when it comes to that, the biggest thing is, again, having the parties of the contract, right? Whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everyone needs to be named. I would even say everyone needs to be named to the name of the company, the address, where they're registered, what state they're registered in, because that can come in if there's a problem. You know, you need to understand every state has different laws. So putting that in the beginning, like this is a contract between, you know, XYZ company of Delaware, at the address of 12345 turned up lane. Okay, that's what we need to have in the contract. All those people. We need to have the value, right? The payment. How is it being paid? When is it being paid? Well, you can, usually what happens is when you have a schedule, it's like another addendum. You'll have like a payment schedule, something like that. But it needs to have some type of, is it in USD? Is it in yen? Okay, we need to know that, and we need to understand how much, right? And what is it being exchanged for? We are paying $1 million in exchange for 1 million white t-shirts with a tag on the left side. Like, get as descriptive as you need to. And then of course the time frame. And that's a big one with, you know, especially with COVID, right? So making sure you have a time frame. And then I would say the lawyer comes in when you really want to make sure that you have those backup things. Like if, so I did a template for a merchandiser not too long ago. She does visual merchandising, right? And one of the things that we talked about, and of course, you know, you're a lawyer and you will talk about this, when it starts to get a little more intricate, is like, what happens if you can't perform your service because they didn't do something right, right? Whose fault? How much time do they get to fix the problem, right? And then what happens with the payment? These are all things to think about because, and here's the thing, a lot of people think of a lawyer when something goes wrong. Think of a lawyer before anything goes wrong, y'all, because it's so much easier. When you come to us, we're not trying to have the headaches, okay? We're not. I mean, the headaches come with more money, but the thing is, you don't want that.
You go to
right?
war. He could go to war. He's like, I'll
Look,
go to war. You got 6 figures. You get what I'm saying? To go to war.
You know, we can do that, but it's so much easier to come to me. Like she came to me, she was getting ready to start. She already had, you know, some past clients. It was fine, little, you know, easy local type of thing. She wants to go bigger. Okay, I can help you make a template, right? So this is something you can plug in. Of course, you know, thank you, preventative measures, like you said. The thing is, the template is not going to be perfect for everything, but it's going to do a lot more good than it's going to do bad. And so when it comes to things like, yeah, what happens if someone's a day late? Coronavirus. What happens? She did store opening. So what happens if the store opening is delayed? What's going on? What's going on with my flight? What's going on with my check? Do we have a certain amount of time to like keep this in the Oh, are you here? Okay, perfect. Okay, I had a little spinning thing, but yeah.
No, somebody called me. Somebody called me while I was going.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
But those are things to think about, and then also another thing with the contracts. So those are the 3 main things. You need to have the parties. You need to have how much money, what the value is being exchanged, and then you need to have the time frame. That's like the bottom barrel contract that's being assigned, being done. The other stuff, when you get more intricate, you know, you get a lawyer, you get a template made, something like that, that can help you. And another thing that I would add in that would be disclaimers, right? If, especially in creative industry, you know, sometimes you got to disclaim, like website designers. You may not like my website that I finished for you, but I did my job.
Yeah.
So you're not paying me. I mean, you're paying me for, you know, you trusting me that you'll like it. Yeah. But the actual payment is for my service of finishing my job, not making sure you like it perfectly.
Exactly. And that's the description of the work. You get what I'm saying? Right. The description of the work is to do it in a particular manner and a degree using, you know, all of the experience and expertise. And people will say, well, why didn't you, you know, yes, of course, can I be there with the designer while they design it? No. Do you get what I'm saying? Right. Like that's something that hinders the creative process, something that doesn't allow for, now look, you're whoever, Beyonce, who they lock the producer in the room. You get what I'm saying? They fly him to Hawaii. You get what I'm saying? They fly him to Hawaii. They pay them. You know what I mean? They're living the best life they can for a month. Then yes, like you can be. You get what I'm saying? In that room and be able to, you know, work with the people. Like if you have that budget. Like if you're, you know, the thing is that at scale, you know, it doesn't work for, you know, for them to be so directly involved. But like you said, that at the end of the day, like making it to what they like is so important at the beginning. The agreements that you make before the product is done, and being as descriptive as possible, and not trying to read somebody or, oh, this is what they could or would like, you know, like, no, like this is what I'm describing the work to do, you know. And that's something that's like epic, especially, you know, because we, even in printing, like every shirt this is art on every garment. You get what I'm saying? This is there's human interaction on every garment. Like this is like somebody mass producing graphics. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
or hand paintings almost. So stuff like that can, you know, there's again a certain list of disclaimers that we have to, you know,
Absolutely.
provide at key conversations. Like if somebody brings in their own garments, we have a no
Okay.
replacement policy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? On garments that we
Yeah.
didn't provide. Because when we order garments, we order a certain amount of extras, or we
Boom.
do whatever we have to do, or we make it, you get what I'm saying, shake with it behind scenes. But that's to the expense of our resources, you get what I'm saying, that we have leveraged. Whereas like if you're providing your own garment, that's a part of the part that you now have to play that role. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's like, so things can go wrong. Vendors can be out of stock. There could be a hole in the shirt. Like we can get like, there's a hole in the shirt under the armpit of one shirt, and no, we didn't catch it, although we quality check. You get what I'm saying? Like, and of course we have a spoilage, and you know, but I could send that to the vendor and say, hey, you guys sent me a shirt with a hole in it, and they'll send me a
Right.
new one, and then I don't
Right.
have to be, you know, outed by that. You get what I'm saying? But if that's not my vendor, I can't reach out to them because I didn't provide that shirt. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's pretty much me saying whatever you're providing, I'm printing. And,
Exactly.
you know, I have that conversation up front so that we can, and then of course, you know, it doesn't become anything until something actually happens, but, you know, which is a whole
Right. There you go.
other part of why these agreements don't have to be so robust, like you're saying, like in just being kind of like, between the parties, the values that's being exchanged, the time frame that it's happening. You know what I mean? It should be official, notarized, I'm sure, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But I think that even before it becomes a legal issue, it's valuable to just have the understanding so that it could potentially be resolved with amongst you. You get what I'm saying? Because sometimes there's people have misunderstanding of the agreement. You get what I'm saying? In the moment, they may misunderstand the agreement or whatever. And as long as you are saying that, look, I'm not your babysitter. You get what I'm saying? Like we're doing an exchange here. Like something's meant to be, you know, there's investment on both sides. So, you know, it has to come with that agreement. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and sorry if you came in late, it's all good. We're just talking about the three mistakes that brands make. And we've broken it down essentially into categories of contracts, contracts, I didn't put it down. Trademark and copyright, specifically around like visuals, you know, on the copyright side, and then just like business structures, and just like how, you know, how to you know, structure yourself and like what kind of name tag you want to give yourself.
Right. And I do want to add, because I think you talked about a little bit about how are the terms you want to use. And that's a good point too. With using certain terms, you do want to make sure each party understands what is actually being said. Especially if one party's a little bit more like new to the industry, right? Because that can happen a lot of times when you know, a party who's, you know, they've been around the block, they're like, oh, we're gonna put this in here. And you know, the new party's like, I just gotta agree. Now you get the crazy when something goes wrong, they're like, no. This term means this.
Exactly.
So there's definitely something with terms and describe them out.
Yeah, and I think that from a business perspective, not from a legal perspective, from a business perspective, what I say to my team, what I say to the customers, and what I say to myself when I'm building a structure or a policy, I say I never want to weaponize our policies against our customer.
Okay.
Nothing that we build or create over here should ever be used as a weapon against our customer. Do you get what I'm saying? So I always say that up front, you know what I mean? And I say that even in the midst of things, is that like, look, I'm just explaining to you what our policies is from the perspective of not trying to weaponize it against you. I'm not trying to just like shut off, protect myself. I'm not trying to like destroy you with it. You know what I mean? And as long as that's understood, and as long as everybody's willing to come at it from a, you know, non confrontational, you get what I'm saying? Like,
coming together,
and just being able to, willing to take accountability for everybody's role, because it's never just one thing, you know, that could have been better. Like a lot of times it's, you know, so in that realm, like, just not weaponizing it, you know what I mean? And not trying to be against, because at the end of the day, you're on the same team here, especially us. The more they do, the better they do, the better we do, you know? So it's really important to, you know, to build those things so that it helps guide us, like you said, and like one of my mentors was in the comments, Alana said about preventative measures.
Yes.
You know, making sure that you're doing it beforehand and not like when everything's on the line, because obviously emotions are going to be flying. You get what I'm saying? And people are going to be, you know, money's on the line, and it's like you want to talk about it while it's small, while it's low, almost before the money's been spent, you know.
Right.
And that's and like you said, the agreements don't have to be in some fancy structure either. It's good, but again, all of this stuff is considering that it goes beyond your guys' agreement and some other third party. You get what I'm saying? If it goes into third party realm, 5 racks minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time. It's time to spend.
You get what I'm saying? 5 racks
right.
minimum.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go after somebody or say cry wolf legally, you know what I mean? 5 racks minimum. Like it's going to have to be something that's like in that kind of scope. So the best thing is to get that understanding from a human's perspective, so that what we actually agree to is something that will uphold amongst us, not just like the system. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like something, an agreement that can be understood. Because when you have a 50-page long contract, there's like, oh yeah, well no, on page 55, I did say that I could screw you over and you couldn't do anything about it. And you get what I'm saying, that you could be mad if I did it. Like Apple has on their website, if you submit an idea to us, we own it.
And honestly, and that's, you brought up a great thing, because I'm in, I took the course, or I'm still finishing it, a streetwear course with Parsons and Complex. So a thing I put in that forum, I don't think a lot of people know, especially to all those who are in college, to all those who like to join the, what is that thing? All the people who like to join those little contests, read the fine print, because what you put out, they own to a certain extent. Don't come back, oh, they stole my idea, now they're making the shoe. Oh, they stole my idea, now they're making a t-shirt. I didn't win the competition, but they still making it.
And they on TikTok pleading, you get what I'm saying? Like, I submitted this to this, and it's like, yes. And in the paper, it says probably at the top, or however many pages down, it says, if you submit it, we own it. And on obviously, and just a side note, we're doing Battle of the Brands, and that's not how we're approaching it. Our customers want all their artwork. You get what I'm saying? We don't do that. But you know, and on those contests where they're doing them in bulk, like absolutely. Like the girl who did the young lady who did, I don't remember her name, who did the Nike ad or whatever. They said that, you know, she did it for $35. You know what I mean? And like probably they sent her like what, gift cards and some
send her some socks and a little outfit. Right. It's true. It's true. Even in college, you have to watch out. When I was in college for design, I went to Queens for design, and my teacher told us, he was like, listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Don't submit your best stuff. And we like, what you mean? He's like, if you think this thing can really pop, you better not submit that as your final thing, because this college owns part of what you put in. And you signed that when you signed up. Whatever you create, whatever you do here, there's a certain level of ownership that this college can take. And I'm like, ooh, but that is really how it is. And before we go into trademarks and copyrights, I do want to add too, especially with contracts, make sure, especially after this pandemic, y'all have an act of God clause, right? If something happens that's outside of everything, if there's a hurricane, a pandemic, national security breakdown, whatever, there needs to be a clause in your thing that's like, if aliens come to Earth, baby, I got at least 30 days to figure out if I'm gonna go with the aliens or not. Right. Okay.
Look, because when COVID first hit, like shit was going down. You get what I'm saying? I had team members getting it. Like we were closing down for a week here, a month here. Like I think that there was maybe like 2 weeks where we were like just down.
Right.
And like when we were explaining it to the customers, like certain customers were like, yeah, you know, this and this is happening. They're like, oh, well, yeah, it is. So should I pick it up on Thursday or is it going to be on, you know what I mean? Like when can I pick up my shirts is what I'm really concerned about. And I'm like, okay. Like, cool, you feel me? Like, and that's like, that's what it's supposed to be. But, you know, at the same time, like, again, like, just like the weaponizing aspect of it, it's like, you know, some companies can afford to just refund everybody and, you know, and shut down, you know, and some companies can't. And, you know, I think that like the whole, the whole, like, I mean, just small businesses change, you know what I mean? There's like a hobby business that's developed underneath small business, you know, whereas like, again, small business is $250,000 and up. And I would say that hobby business is like $100,000 and down, you understand, or like less than 75,000. You know what I mean? But which like it's good. Like you can. That's more than making. You get what I'm saying? That's more than getting paid at some other job. Like
absolutely,
you want to put yourself through that. Which it's like it's putting yourself through something. Don't get it twisted. You get what I'm saying? It's not as safe as doing like working for somebody else. But at the end of the day, you know that's it's a viable option. You know, it's just like. It becomes like that's why it's like some of these things, the legal ramifications of it are more so about like the practical agreement, you know what I mean? Especially in the contracts, it's just like agreeing to like, look, if some shit goes, like you said, aliens,
let's work it out.
Can I can I can, you know, refund you what we haven't cost, or, you know what I mean? We could do this. And it's like the same
Absolutely.
things, like having that, you know, end of the road kind of agreement to where it's like, look, like, this is what we'll do to work with you. You
Right.
know, I think that's
Absolutely.
important.
Just relationship, give and take. That's it.
Yeah.
But
And there's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong too with being a high. He said, I'm definitely a high level hobbyist. It's not like a classism thing. You know what I mean? It's not meant to like, but I get what you're saying. Like that's, you know, it's nothing against, you know, doing that, because it's, if it don't look at it as necessarily a one or the other, look at it as an evolution of the same thing,
boom.
you know, because small
Great word.
businesses are just businesses that are in size. You get what I'm saying? Not in theory, not in impact, not
Boom.
in innovation.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? Business means money. So like if you're a small business, it just means you're not making that much money,
Right.
which doesn't correlate to impact, which doesn't correlate to fulfillment, which doesn't correlate to creative contribution,
Yes.
you know, inspiration.
Right.
Like all of those things start as zero, you know, at some point. So, you know, there's like, it's a progression of, if you want to, even, you know what I mean? The beauty about it is that you grow it into this thing. You know, you can make money, you can do it for free. You don't have to monetize. No. There's parts of it that you can, there's parts of it that you can keep sacred. Like, you know, all of those things have, that's the beauty of running, you know, your own entity. And I think that's the beauty of like, even where the conversation is about to go, and like how you structure yourself. Because I think that when you have that legal conversation first, I don't like to have creative conversations until I've had the legal conversation first, at least touched on it. I'm not going to say that before I can help you build your brand and be creative, that you've got to pay a lawyer $2,000 and get your shit trademarked. I'm saying that if you don't have that stuff in mind, then whatever it is that I print for you becomes worthless at some point, or becomes, you get what I'm saying, not in line with what you might do potentially, you know? Right. Why get, you know, this tattooed when you don't own it? You get what I'm saying? Why get the chain?
Ooh, that's a good one, right? A whole tattoo and don't own.
You get what I'm saying? Or the chain, or the representation. Like what you're doing is you're promoting something that is not necessarily that somebody else owns. If it's somebody else owns, you're within, you're outside of your realm. You know what I'm saying? If somebody else owns it, you're outside of your realm. You have to stop. If nobody owns it, it's just raw dog. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like shit. Anybody, if it does pop enough, somebody has the muscle somewhere to, you get what I'm saying, pull some strings and pull something off of it, you know? So yeah, those contracts are crucially important. And then just being able to have the course to not have to, like, you know, just be having the conversation with the lawyer, having the guy's number. You get what I'm saying? Like paying the guy, you get what I'm saying, a couple consulting fees. Like they charge anywhere from what, $75 to $300-$400 an hour. You get what I'm saying? To just have like a certain amount of conversations with, like, you know, it's worth paying a retainer if you're, you know. But I say that like a business should be making like, well, you know, let's say $6,000, $6,000 to $12,000, right? If you, of that, you should put, you know, 5 to 20, you know what I mean, dollars for every $100 you make on, you know, for legal. You get what I'm saying? And just have that way, like because before that, I don't think it's even worth having a conversation. You know what I mean? Before that, it's just kind of like sperm and egg. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not child yet. You know, there hasn't been really any magic happen yet, you know? And so I think that, like, unless, again, you just have that, like, that resource, that dollar,
the capital,
you know, if you can go and just go be protected, absolutely, you should go and just do it, you know, off rip, if you're willing. And we're talking $100,000 to, you know, $20,000 just to be able to just go, and then on top of what you actually have to do to operate, you know. But yeah, just being in an agreement, you know, with your customers, with your team, to make sure that everything is clear is crucially important. Crucially.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's really, you know, the main things with contracts. You know, I mean, you already know, it could dive deep, but as far as baseline, you know, that's what it is. And then, yeah, for the second thing, you know, it's trademarks and copyrights, y'all. Trademarks and copyrights. I mean, well, I guess let me start with what trademarks are here to do.
Yeah. And that's and trademarks. So what are trademarks here to do? You get what I'm saying? What are trademarks here to do? And then we could jump into like what like definition. You get what I'm saying? Like definition of mark, and just kind of like, I feel like there's especially creatively, I think that it's really important to understand too, and you can, you know, I'll let you take it away because I'm obviously not a lawyer, is how it's a continuum. It's always spectrum talk. It's never it's very rarely creatively, and correct me if I'm wrong, black and white when it comes down to like where somebody is violating a particular marker and not. So I think that it's not just like boom if you do this, and so I'd love to speak on that too. Is just kind of like how, because that gives the realm the game of like understand that if you make it look like that, if it could be mistaken for that within that same category, then there's legal, you're outside of your lines essentially.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so what are trademarks? What are the purpose of why are they here, you said?
Okay. So trademarks basically have a twofold point. On one end, they're here to distinguish the goods and service or the source of a good and service, right? So as a brand, as a business, it is here to ensure that you are getting protection for the goodwill that you put into your company. When I say goodwill, that's like you have done the marketing, you have done the sales, you have made sure that you have placed this mark on the hang tag, on the labels. You have done everything you need to do to create a space where people see you as a source of this good or service. That's one end. The other end is actually to protect the consumer from being confused, okay? It is to protect the consumer from thinking that Chanel on Etsy for $5 is the same Chanel that's $500 for the brooch, okay?
Yeah.
We don't want people confused because you know what, at the end of the day, let's be honest, this is all about money. It's all about business. We don't need you confused and spending money with the wrong person. Then everyone mad and they not getting what they want. That's not what the government wants for their checks. That's not what the economy wants, and that's not what consumers want. So those are the twofold things of trademark. And I guess when it goes into like as far as like infringe, or when it goes into the trademark protection aspect of like what we're looking for as far as like an attorney side, like the analysis we go through, it's also twofold as well. So on one end, and I think you have a video on this about, well, they're called the Abercrombie factors, but basically like whether your trademark on the sliding scale is arbitrary or fanciful, or is it generic, which things can become genericized. So like when I say Kleenex.
Speak on that. Yeah, speak on that.
Right. So when I say Kleenex, so generic is just like, it is what it is. If I say
T-shirt,
boom, we already know what a T-shirt is. I can't get a trademark for T-shirt. Everyone knows what T-shirt is. All the public knows it. There's no extra oomph to that. Things can become genericized. And this is where trademark becomes that thing that you really have to make sure that you are protecting yourself and you're upholding your own trademark too. Because part of the onus is on you as a brand to ensure that you are making the customer understand that you are a source. You are not the good or service, okay? So with that being said, when I say Kleenex, what am I saying?
Tissue.
See, that's genericized because at the end of the day,
right? When I say Kleenex, polo, you get what I'm saying? When I say polo, I put polo. I actually just put polo on my board, one of my order sheets. You know, the word that we use, the genericized term that we use for that category is polos. But if you search that, you get what I'm saying? Like in the blank company, you get what I'm saying? They aren't allowed to use that word. You get what I'm saying? Like in certain stuff, like they're obviously not allowed to use that in the garment realm. You get what I'm saying? So it's like it does break down, like where you protect yourself. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. And the thing is, that's the thing. On one end, it's beautiful that Kleenex got so big that now I say Kleenex, and you already know it's a tissue. There's on one end that's like, yo, look how much we grew this brand, but it takes away from the actual market.
They want the money. You know what I'm saying? They want money. They have to keep up with it. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But that's huge.
Right. But on the other end, it's just one of those things that's like, it's so big. Now, even when I say Google something, I think Google is trying to make more of a thing of saying Google internet search. Oh, I'm back. Right. You already know it's an internet search. So there's the thing that's like, dang, you gotta scale that. So on one end, it is the where do you fall in the name, right? You generic, descriptive. There's also one called suggestive. I would put something like Jaguar cars. When you think about a Jaguar is an animal, but when you think about it with a car, it like suggestive means you take a leap. Like, oh wait, a Jaguar is this fast, sleek animal. Oh, okay, that must be what Jaguar Cars is trying to do, like a fast, sleek car. So that's it. And then all the way up to fanciful, you know, which don't have nothing to do with the goods or service.
Talk that talk. Yeah, that's you know that's it. The suggestive, like taking a leap. I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it. You get what I'm saying? It's like taking a leap from like, oh, it's called
Right.
this because of this, and that can help direct it, because a lot of people just say anything. You know what I mean? And want
Right.
to, because it's like, well, a lot of people, yeah, if you stay small enough, then like it might never come up. You get what I'm saying? Like
Right.
the trucking company from however long ago, that family, old person runs it. They don't care what it gets called. It could be called, Samir and Sons, trucking, and they don't have any protection around it. They don't even have any stylization to it. It might just be scripted font. You
Right.
get it? Like that, like, nobody else owns. So,
Right.
yeah, so that spectrum, say more about that. So arbitrary, fanciful, suggestive, and
Uh-huh.
descriptive.
Right.
I find it hugely important to have that conversation.
Right.
And to connect this to a measuring stick, you get what I'm saying, for the creative conversation. And I feel it's hugely important to use it always, because you can go creative. You can talk to the most creative guy and he won't know jack about what you're talking about in terms of like, what's actually protectable in the long term.
Right.
You could look at it like, as creatives, we tend to be ignorant to it. You know what I mean? Because we just want to create. Oh, it's dope. Sometimes what it is might even lead to our inspiration. You know what I mean? All the time. You know what I mean? A satire, like a direct reflection of it. Like that stuff's not protectable,
Right.
And so yeah, I think that's just a hugely point to use it as a measuring stick when having the creative conversations, because it can lead you to, and not being married to what you call yourself in moment, in that realm, with whatever even if you feel like you're the first person to do it, and really realizing that your name is only the name. It's more like you said, providing that source or of that good or service. So if you're not a source of the good or service, then what you call yourself doesn't truly, you know what I mean? Like they're not interchangeable. Like, yes, they should align, but they don't always, especially not at the beginning, when we as brands don't understand that relationship, so that source of good or service is what you call yourself, and making sure that it doesn't border any lines, I feel like, is hugely important, and then creating from there. She's reloading. Let's see. Yo. Oh, she backed out. Let's see. She might have got a call or something. What's going on, guys? Hey, Alana, how you doing? What's going on, Corey? Hobby business part of the economy. Yep, hobby business is always going to be part of the economy, and you can build another thing too about hobby businesses too, is you could build like kind of like a conglomerate of hobby businesses into a business itself, to a degree, if you can make it line up the right way. Let me see. She just requested.
What's going on? Did they kick you off? I think they kicked me out with that little 45-minute thing.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Because they were like, thanks for joining.
Okay.
I was like, dang, Instagram, I wasn't done.
Go to Clubhouse. No.
Right. But what was, right. I think you were talking about the script, like how the creatives don't always take into account where their name, how far it can really go.
Exactly. And to circle it back to your twofold point. So you're saying that like there's a twofold point from that is protecting the customer from being confused.
Yep.
And that you're getting protection for the goodwill that you put into your company.
Absolutely.
As a source of a good or service.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And not the actual good or service. Exactly.
So about that. So in the actual good or service, what does that say about the actual good or service?
Say one more time.
what does that say about the actual good or service? Since we're protecting us as a source of the good or service,
Okay.
the good or service itself is what in that, and like why do people typically confuse the two? You get what I'm saying? Because when I think about it, when you say it and we talk on a hard line, I can see the difference.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I think of it like organically without you putting that line there, I can see how it can get blurry.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Like, do you have anything to say about like what,
Yeah.
why
So
typically see it as the same
distinguishing
thing?
yourself, distinguishing yourself as a source of a good or service, instead of as a service. One, it helps you, what's it called? It shows that there's a differentiation, which helps with that, sliding scale being arbitrary to generic, right? Because when you are the good or service, that's generic, right? Or you're describing the good or service, that's descriptive. And we want suggestive or up to have a smooth sailing trail to get in that gold seal, okay, on the trademark. So that's one reason. And then another is because I think, and you mentioned it in one of your videos, you can have more, you can be similar to someone in a different industry and potentially in the same industry, as long, I want to say that depends, but what happens is making sure you develop how you are a source will help when it comes to the analysis of a likelihood of confusion. So, and the reason why I say they're twofold when it comes to the trademark analysis process, this is what attorneys are thinking about when someone comes to me with their word mark, their logo, their phrase, symbol. I mean, you can trademark a sound or color if you get secondary acquiredness. That's a whole nother, section. But
Got to get the government involved or something. Something you got to call the
yeah,
president.
that's a long process to get like a color, sound, smell even. Yeah. I know when you go into Hollister, you have a certain smell that comes into mind, and that could possibly be something they could trademark, but that's a long road. But anyway, so after we think about what the name is in and of itself, on where it goes on that sliding scale, then we look at something called the DuPont factors for words anyway, when it comes to the likelihood of confusion. Because the big part of this is the likelihood of confusion. The reason why this is so big, and we also have to think of trademark yes, it's federal government based, but trademark also moves more than anything else with the times, okay? Because of the likelihood of confusion, because we're comparing it to what else is already in there. So the more things that already come into the database, the more things that come, and that's another reason why sometimes it is better to hurry up, because as things progress, things also change as to what is considered likelihood of confusion, right? So, I mean, over COVID, I think there's over 600,000 trademarks registered or put into the system. Because literally right now, I mean, I haven't posted too many trademarks on my page because they're literally sitting, y'all. Like I'm working. I promise you I'm working. But like they're about like 3 to 4 months behind in the process. So when it comes to likelihood of confusion, we're looking at the similarity of the names. That could be phonetically, that could be the way it's spelled, that could be the way it looks. We're looking at the nature of the goods, like you mentioned. You keep on talking about classes, and so when he says classes, y'all, that there are 45 different classes that you can put your good or service into, and you have to pick one. And each one costs, okay, because the government's going to get their money. So that's one. When it comes to likelihood of confusion, that's why you can have Pandora bracelets and Pandora music, okay? There has to be something there. And when I'm talking about these factors, there are 13 of them, okay? So this is an extensive analysis that, the attorneys we're going to go into. And when you get a search done by an attorney, this is what we're looking into to see how strong we think your mark is to get registered, right? And then also there's this thing, and this comes into even more about the source of it. There's also how do the buyers buy? What do the consumers see? When I go on Etsy and I buy that Etsy Chanel keychain for $3, that's an impulse buy. When I go to the Chanel store, unless you're a certain type of person, ain't no impulse buys happening in the Chanel store. I'm thinking about this. I done saved. I put a little money away for this $10,000 purse.
You waited in line. You
Look,
get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? You waited in line to know what you're walking yourself into.
So that confusion, although, there's still some infringement using that mark, you're not supposed to. But at the same time, it should come into your mind that this can't be the same Chanel. right? It can't be the same. And so there is something with that. There's something with how people shop. There's something with where it is found on, you know, in the shelves. Like, you know, what's it called? Let me think. When you go to the liquor store, certain liquor stores are behind the case. Certain liquor stores you could just go, certain liquors you can just go and get. There's a difference between that. You know, who got the mark first. So all this stuff goes into it, right? Because you can file and it's like, okay, who filed first? How long had they been using it? When did they say they first used the mark in commerce? And oh, that's another point. Say again.
Intent to use.
Boom. Right. And that's another
Yep.
point that, yeah, that should come into too, is that trademark is all about commerce. A lot of people come and they're like, I want to just hurry up and trademark this. You know, it's great that that's on your heart, but how are we using it in business? Trademark is about protecting your business. Okay.
Right.
You need to use it in business, or like you mentioned, there's something called intent to use, where let's say you're not ready to be in business yet, but in the next six months, you might get an extension, but like about 6 months, you're going to go to market, and there needs to be evidence of that, you know, and that process takes a little longer, and you have to have extra step. I have, you know, some clients that I've had that maybe they did the trademark on their own as intent to use, and then the last part comes where they need to show it. They're like, listen, I don't really know what's going on, and I ain't got time to do it. Can you just hurry up and finish this for me? And that's something, you know, lawyers can do too. But yes, that's another thing. It's like, so all this comes into play when it comes to how we're analyzing how strong a mark is and how well we think it will fare when it comes to going through the process. Because again, our disclaimer is nothing is guaranteed. Okay, we're gonna do our best. We're gonna do our best search. We're gonna present the facts, and then it's up to you if you want to go forward. You want to change your name. You want to change something up. You want to come back to it. That's up to you. And then we just follow through with those wishes. So, but yeah, the likelihood of confusion is a big one. It's a big one.
That's likelihood of confusion, similarities in names, spelled, the way it looks, the way it sounds.
Yeah.
For the goods is 45 classes.
Right.
I talk about that often, and you know the 13 factors. You know, we probably don't have to shoot. You gave a few of them, like how buyers buy, how people shop, where it's found, who got the mark first, and just keeping in mind that trademarking is all about commerce. So they want you to prove that you've been using it, not just prove that you came up. Not just prove that I thought of it first, not just prove that I creatively. That's where the copyright. That's why copyright is kind of more flimsier, because it's all about like creative, which anybody could say, you know, but the dates and everything come into it. But with trademarking, it's like who used it for commerce,
for money, right?
Who's making money using it,
right?
Because that's, you know, like you said, it's all about commerce. So that's a huge, and the DuPont factor was, you said the DuPont factor was just for words, like mainly like about like what script, and just kind of like the
DuPont factors. It's 13 full factors. And DuPont factors are about the word, because there's another factor test. So this is why sometimes it's better get a lawyer. There's another test for when it comes to logos, images. Those are called the Polaroid factors. I'm beyond, I don't remember all the Polaroid factors, y'all. It's a lot of them, but they're very similar to the DuPont. They're very similar. It's basically like, what does it look like, the look and feel. But yes, there's 13 factors when it comes to DuPont factors that you go through. And number 13 is really literally just like in everything else. So this is an extensive, this is like an extensive analysis. And also this is where you can find holes where if there is some type of likelihood of confusion, this is another reason why it's great to get a lawyer, because people can get it wrong. The trademark office can get it wrong, or they can go more on the side of something that is not what you meant. For an example, I was in a lecture for trademarks during COVID, and an attorney was on there talking about how she had a client who wanted to trademark something called like the photography cookout, right? So she puts it through, and the USPTO was like, no, photography cookout is descriptive. You can't do that, da-da-da. Now, here's another thing. This is why it's important. This is why I feel connected to trademark, especially coming from background in streetwear. You know, the niche stuff just speaks to me. And as well as trademark, most minorities don't understand and didn't have a chance to understand, because at one time, a lot of minorities weren't able to own things, especially not intellectual property. So there is something where a lot of times there are cultural differences and understanding words and terms. So what this attorney did is she wrote back to the office, because again, you can say what you got to say and contest things, right? And she was like, no, 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 no. Photography cookout, this is not a cookout. This is a cookout that culturally means a gathering and fellowships of those you love and like minds. This is something, a cookout in the African American community is not just you come and cook. Okay, you
Yeah.
talk about who baby daddy did what, who got a new wig, what new businesses coming out, who got stuff on sale at the store.
Yeah.
This is a fellowship, this is a gathering, this is a communal effort and togetherness that is more than just food. And so she explained that, and they were able to go forward with the process. But these are things that sometimes we have an attorney who understands, and when you realize that, the examiners at trademark office, I mean, let's be honest, most of them are going to be white. Most of them, look, they don't know. And even outside the African American community, we could look at the Indian community, the Asian community. There's a lot of things that culturally mean different things. And we need to be able to get registration and support for that. There's no reason why it shouldn't be supported just because it's not the majority view. No. So
Absolutely.
that is another reason why it's great to get an attorney to help you with these things, and why, when it comes to likelihood of confusion factors, it's good to know someone who understands that and can articulate why or why not we should be in that realm of confusion.
Absolutely. Yeah, that realm of confusion, it is weighted towards the people who make the definitions of the words, you know what I mean? And things mean different things to people. And when everything's set to a white setting, essentially, like all the dials, the temperature in the room is set to, what white people have decided it to be at. Anytime the temperature, like even having to go back and forth about that is a good example of kind of like some of the barriers that exist.
Right.
Because it costs to have that conversation.
Right.
To send the conversation could cost $1,600.
Look,
at least that's, you get what I'm saying? To formulate it in that way can cost thousands. You know what I mean? Because that conversation is to do, like when I was having the digital apparel printing conversation, I had already knew I was going to have to drop the printing, but the reason that I was going to potentially be able to get apparel was because we aren't an apparel company. So we had categorized ourselves as a website service because of how people buy. It's online.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? We're able to categorize our website service or something like that in one, particular thing. That way we could have it, protected. So that being able to just having that conversation was going to cost the 4, 5, 6 times. You get what I'm saying? To go back and forth, that with having a lawyer makes all the difference in. And if you're on legal Zoom, you get what I'm saying? Like, passed out at that point. No to search that. It's a no, it doesn't. It's oh man, I submitted it and it didn't go through.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Versus like there's a nuance that like, the lawyer knows how to maneuver. And I think it's hugely important to just pay your lawyer. Put it on a shirt.
It's helpful. It's helpful. Yes.
It is.
And then
So I don't want to keep going. I mean,
So I mean, that's the big thing with say one more time.
I was just saying I'm down to keep talking. I know we said we would
try. Oh, right. Okay, well, the one thing I want to get into is copyright.
No, I'm down to keep talking. Like I don't have I don't have anything to do until about 2. So
okay.
Yeah,
I do want to touch on copyright stuff because I know a lot of people don't know on the creative side, on the development side. So one thing, copyright, trademark, totally different.
Can you give me? I was just about to give me a quick breakdown, and I can turn this into a clip. Even what is because people to me and trademark, copyright, patent.
Yeah.
And then is that it?
That's it for intellectual property. I mean, you have trade secrets, but you can't. Trade secrets is like a whole. That's its own little land. Okay. Yeah. But copyright, patents, trademarks. That's intellectual property, and then trademarks and copyrights alone are soft intellectual property. Because as you know, trade or patents are very technical. That's technical science. I don't do patents. Patents is really, it has its own whole courthouse. Like it's very different. You don't have to be an attorney to do patents. It's very technical on the other side. But as it comes to copyrights and trademarks, what I would say is a quick clip. Trademarks is all about business. It's about protecting your business and protecting consumers from being confused. Copyright is all about artistry. It is about protecting the artistic work of an author or joint author, whatever. It is not about how many you're going to sell. It's not about the numbers you about to do. It's not about, oh, they can't use it because I did this. Copyright is all about the art. It's about this creator has developed something. Think about it very like Renaissance whimsical. Like we want the art to stay, you know, we want the author to be able to protect their creative embodiment that they had made for the world. That is copyright, okay? And so when it comes to copyright, especially for creatives, paintings, photography, you know, writings. At this point, I believe you can, what's it called? Captions, certain captions you put on your photos, blog posts. Yeah, certain blog posts. And copyrights are not that expensive. It's not that expensive.
Like bucks, something like that.
Yeah, it's like $50 for
so
one author.
What's the measuring, you know, because trademark, you said it's about commerce, it's about protecting customers, it's about money, it's about, you know, somebody using it in the world, in a class, you know, a source of a product or service. Copyright, you know, what's its like, because it's about the artistic work of an author.
Right.
What are the factors that go into it being protectable or not?
Right. So for copyright, and then of course for all these things I'm saying, ideas are never able to get any protection on anything. So ideas don't, it's nothing. If you come up with an idea and you tell someone, oh, I got this idea, I'm gonna have this little swirl that swirls this way, swirls that way. If they do that, they can do
Ideas don't count. Ideas don't count.
They do not. They do not. As well as systems don't count, and facts don't count. So that is something you can't get copywritten. So if you have a calendar, like for planners, your actual planner, most of it's not going to get copyright protection. It's going to be like you add little quotes, you word something somewhere in the paragraphs. So that's it. But when it comes to copyright, here are the elements. It has to be original. Okay, has to be an original work. It needs to original. It needs to be fixed. So that means that it has to have some level of permanence. With the website, you know, that means that every time I go to the website, your logo comes up, you know, it stays there. So that's one way that it can be looked at, like as online, because I know technically, you know, on your phone and stuff, it's not permanent, but it needs to have some level of permanence, and there needs to be a level of creativity. Now, the creativity part is where you need you need somebody who understands copyrights a little bit more, because creativity is a up and down hill. All it needs to have is a minimum level of creativity. But the thing with creativity is that you don't really know what it is until like you know what it is. It's just one of the more examples you understand.
Yeah.
Because you know, everyone feels like they're creative, but it's like words put in a certain font, that's not going to be enough. We need some element of some oomph to make it creative. And also it kind of goes, sometimes I would put it more like, if I look at it, I don't really know what it is. Sometimes that can tell that there's like an element of creativity. So that would be what I would say. Let me put this on the charger. But yeah, that's the thing when it comes to copyright. Yeah. So those are the main factors.
That's all right. Got it. So ideas don't count, systems don't count, facts don't count.
Right. Yes.
You know, to sum up the difference between patent, trademark, and copyright. Trademark and copyright are soft protections. So they're tell me, is this a good way to put it? Patents is about like processes, or is that not a good way to sum it up?
Oh no, that's a good. Yeah, it's more like novel inventions is really the reason why patents are around, is to protect. Let me think, because like medicine has patents on it. Skincare, certain skincare things have patents on it. This is like a novel invention. Like if you create a ladder that turns into a ruler and can fit in your pocket.
Yeah.
Boom,
Novel
that's patentable.
Perfect. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So novel inventions. you know, are like, yeah, like it's hard is what you said, and the trademark and copyright are soft. So the patent essentially comes with something like a novel invention, like something that's in the world and some way of doing it.
Right.
You need
Yeah. Exactly.
the process of it, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Something
Yeah.
like, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Of course, you know, I'm not a patent attorney,
Yeah,
so
yeah, and
y'all.
exactly. I'm not a lawyer either. So you get what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so patents is about novel inventions, trademarks and copyrights are soft. Trademarks is about business and protecting the customers and consumers, and copyright is about artistry,
Yeah.
um, and protecting the artist, um, the artist's work of an author, or the artistic work of an author is
Perfect.
what
Yeah.
artistic
Exactly.
work of an author.
Right.
And it's not about commerce. It's not about how many you're going to sell. So if we're talking about a hierarchy, right? Like let's say,
Okay.
the clothing brand on the court, like a clothing brand comes in and says, I have this, so it depends of whether or not if it's a trademarked logo or if it's a design is one distinction, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like
Okay.
I have it that like copyright is as long as the tag or that the trademark is present, you get what I'm saying? Within
Right.
some realm of knowing it, I feel like that's good enough protection for a brand. You know what I'm saying? When
Okay.
it comes to script design, what do you say about like do you think that designers should have everything copyrighted before they sell it at all?
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with it.
Like how can, like, because I don't want the legal thing, I want it to be to, because it's practical, it's something that has to happen, but at the same time when people are first coming up with it, a
Right.
lot of times they don't want to just be straight vulnerable, like I haven't
Right.
done anything about it, so they just kind of
Uh-huh.
go with whatever they think or say they should be doing. Oh, I'm going to go get the copyright, or I've already gotten it patented, they'd say, you get what I'm saying, or I've already gotten
Right.
it this, you get what I'm saying, and that, and which getting your business registered, we'll talk about that then, but getting your business registered is not the same as getting a copyright or owning any
Right.
creative rights to any entity or name. It's literally just permission to get taxes paid.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that when I
Absolutely.
break it down legally, I say permission and protection.
Yeah.
Your business registered is a permission thing. It's not a protection thing.
Right.
Is copyright considered a protection thing?
Yes, but it's again because we're not worried about sales. This is about protection of your artistry and creativity. So, and that's why when you were saying the logo part, if this is a logo that you have like some strong connection, okay, I'm gonna break it down two ways because
Yeah.
I had a client or had an almost client one time that I told them how you can move this. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we go. First, copyright is definitely about the artistry, is about protecting the art. So if you have this unique thing, let's say you put time, effort into creating this logo, it's just the most beautiful logo. You got a whole city scene in the back with cathedrals
Yeah.
and Gothic design, and it means something to you very dear to your heart. I would say go ahead and get it copywritten. Again, copyright is only going to protect the artistry of it, and it's only going to protect how you put it in. So I think you mentioned like satire, so someone can like make it into something else that is like a play on it, a parody. But as far as copyright, the biggest thing with it is you have certain rights to how it appears that is a little different from trademark, because trademark is all business. The thing with copyright is you have the right to display, you have the right to distribution, you have the right to it was like 7 rights, I know I'm forgetting some. You have the right to distribution, derivative works, so you can make it into something else by using the work. There's some more, but that's all that's coming to my head right now.
Yeah.
So when I say that means if I come and I say, you know what, I want to do a portrait of y'all, Family Matters, I'm gonna do a portrait for y'all. I'm gonna come to the store, I'm gonna paint it. Okay. All the staff get together, I'm gonna paint y'all this portrait. Let's say in this contract, I did not give you copyright rights. So I come over to the store, I say, oh, what's up, y'all? What's up? Y'all had the picture hanging. I said, I don't like where y'all put that picture. I'm gonna need y'all to move it. You like, what you mean? I'm like, I have rights to display. I'm gonna need you to move the picture to like where I like, because I feel like you
Yeah.
put it in a place that is really disintegrating my work, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
on some real artist stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's those type of rights that you get. And so
Yeah.
what you can do sometimes when you mix it up, you have more options. Okay, so here we go. Let's say you have a trademark and you have a copyright. Let's say your business owns a trademark. So you have that under your LLC. So the LLC is sold, the trademark goes with it.
Mm.
You know, the business can license it, da da da. But let's say you as an individual own the copyright to the magical, magnificent logo that you created with the cathedrals and everything. So what happens now is you have divided up these certain protections. So there has to be a conversation, even if you sell the LLC, unless they buy that copyright from you, you still have these certain rights and you have to sit at the table. So sometimes dividing things up allows you to have more options when it comes to growth. And that's why I see copyright as something that can help. And again, it's not as expensive either. This is not thousands of dollars for a copyright for one author, one work, a 2D work anyway. I'm not talking about music or songs or anything like that. I really don't get into that, so I don't know too much about it, but I'm more the 2D person. And that's why thinking of copyrights is something to think about, especially if you have a blog post and it's like 2 million something, and what the words you put together, the words you said it are, people keep using it or are used for other things. It's time maybe to copyright that. If you have, you know, some design you made, super creative, or even a picture, photos as well. You have a picture, for instance, with all the riots that happen, some of these pictures are going to just have such a huge impact on how we go forward. It's going to be in history books. Do you have a copyright for that? You know, because now with your copyright, you have protected this, and now we can talk business. So you want to put in a history book? Okay, I'm gonna need y'all to pay me this much in order for me to give you this ability to use my copyrighted work in this way for this amount of time.
Or
right?
they can, you know, so they can use it for that amount of time, like from a financial standpoint, or like you said, more on some artist shit. You get what I'm saying? Because
Right.
it's less about the money and also more about
Right.
the creative. Like you
Exactly.
can get whether or not they could use it in a book that might be using it in a negative light, or not, like you said, not presenting it in a particular way.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
in that way you have the right to the creative aspect of it, and like you said, the
Right.
rights to display, right to distribution. So if somebody is taking somebody else's copyright and utilizing it, right, like let's say you came up with some art and they're putting it up on whatever, and you know what I mean, like a company starts printing t-shirts of it, right, do
Uh-huh.
cease and desist work for both copyright and trademarks, or is that
Yeah.
like you got it? So cease and desist is essentially the first step, one way or another. Is like, hey,
Yeah,
stop
it
using
definitely
this.
is.
I own. Yeah.
It definitely is. And you have copyright infringement too. You know, once you for show, I had, you know, a client of mine, or I guess, yeah, kind of like a consultation client. She had a store, and so she had a vendor she went through to get things for her store. Her vendor was illegally using this image, right? And so, you know, it's Instagram. So the guy comes up, I'm gonna get my lawyer, da, 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 da. And he wasn't wrong. I was like, well, first I want you to know he's not wrong. Okay. This is his work. He is entitled to feel some type of way about his work. But, you know, you're a small company. His lawyer's not gonna, like, don't be too scared. If his lawyer comes at you in some crazy way, you know, it's like you didn't make any money off of it. You got it from someone else. You can give them the vendor. And also it's a little gut check, like, okay, so what's your registration number? Since you own the copyright,
Mm-hmm.
like, let me just
Mm-hmm.
double check it.
Yeah. Let
And
me
so
make sure.
that, yeah, so that's cease and desist. You know, you just send a cease and, hello, I'm the owner of this
Notification.
copyright. Registration number is da 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 da. I see that you're using this without permission. You know, we don't have a contract with you. We don't have anything with you. We would like for you to stop using it as soon as possible. You know, if you don't by this amount of time, we may have to go into other legal
Yeah.
remedies and see how much you've
That,
made off of this. So
mm-hmm.
that's that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that whole conversation, like I had at one point asked, like, you know, my lawyer to not necessarily do it, but to send me the letter to do it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To do that. So I was like trying to, you know, gonna create like a cease and desist, like just like a formulated template to just kind of like put that on notification, because I feel like or from what I've understood about trademarking is that R or that TM or that C is classifies as a notification. So
Yes.
so if you don't put it on there or do put it on there without right, you are, you know, when we talk about notification, you know, at what point were you first notified that somebody else owned this?
Mm.
If the source from which they were inspired from or saw it from is and has proof that you have the trademark or copyright mark present, then I feel like that could help leverage something in that legal realm if it enters there.
Right.
As well as
Absolutely.
yeah, uh, just from, you know, the control part of being able to make sure that it goes out the way. So if somebody was using it, let's say somebody was using it, you could say like, just pay me and you're good. Or you could say,
Well, you have to prove again, because you know how your lawyer said to you, like, how can you prove it? You know, you're gonna have to, you know, ask them for some information or somehow prove it. Sometimes have some evidence that's like, okay, we know you selling this and we know you got some money.
yeah,
All right. So you do want to have some evidence that's going along with it. Most of the time, though, it's just, you know, it's easier just to tell someone to stop. And then if they don't, that's also proof of them not listening. Because the thing is, you're just building a case, right? So evidence of you saying, hey, I just need you to stop. And then being like, forget
no,
you. And then
yeah.
it keeps
Lawyer.
going. So that's definitely a thing. But like you said with the notice, you know, especially for a lot of creatives that, you know, follow you and watch you, that TM is free. As long as you're in commerce and you have something that is building you up as a source, whether it's the name, it's a logo, use that TM. Use it today. You don't need anything to use the TM after your name other than you being in commerce. You being in commerce, because technically what that's saying is you have a common law trademark, because there's really 3 types of trademarks: common law, state level, and federal. Of course, federal is going to protect you all across the world or all across the nation, because that's not international. But right, exactly. It's not international, but it's going to do all across the nation and online. State is just that state. I don't think it goes outside of, I don't think it goes online. Online gets a little tricky. And then common law is just, it's very geographical, like where you are. You know what I'm saying? So that TM, go ahead and use that thing. You know, go ahead and put people on notice that you know you have some type of level of protection, even if it's the lowest common law.
Common law, absolutely. Yeah, that's important. Man, this is a hell of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I love talking about it. And so we talked about the copyright versus trademark, the difference between them. And you gave that good gem of like dividing them up within the business, because I see what you said about like being able to have copyrights to control the display of a particular mark, even if I were to, let's say, sell my company. You get what I'm saying? Like, and retain the rights of those copyrights. Although they have systems and they have all rights to the mark use, the copyright would allow me to essentially say, but in this way. You know what I'm saying? Like creative, like the light should hit it in this way. Don't just money off of it in this building, but I don't like, you know, a portion of the way that it's supposed to be displayed is like this. And, you know, have that built into the business, not even just through the marks. I feel like just all the way through. You know what I mean? Like all the different little, you know, creative ways. I feel like that could be a little hack to just kind of like retain ownership of, you know, what you thought of. That's not past ideas. Like you said, ideas don't count. Like you have to put it into the space.
Absolutely. And then also, when it comes to patterns, especially for, you know, those people who like to come up with intricate patterns, certain ones that you can get a thin copyright. It's not going to get, what's it called? Clothing can't be copyrighted or copywritten, I guess, because it's functional. There's a function to it. But like, if you have a cool pattern and you don't want anybody to get it, you can get a thin copyright in America and in, I think, Europe, I think France, you can get collection copyrights. France and Italy are a little bit more, I mean, they're fashion capitals. So you can do a little bit more in those international markets. I think they do something where you can have a collection, have a copyright for a certain amount of time. But that is something to look into. If you got like a crazy pattern, you know, you really went in on it, you may be able to get a thin copyright on it. It's not going to be like, you know, no one touched my stuff for real, but it might be something real thin. Because again, they can switch the pattern up and they can get their own copyright. That's the thing with copyright, is it's just art. It's just the artistry.
How it appears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not about where it's being sold.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
I mean, that's it. It's that, you know, that percentage change of whatever they change it to make it, you know, fall within that line. And, you know, somebody's willing to go through to that extent, then, I mean, power to them.
Right.
Almost, you know what I mean? Like they got to be you know, very invested to want to fight that battle. So it's like, it's not just that, like, the big guy has to be able to play it, like when it comes down to money. At the same time, though, while things are small, I think that it's outside of the view of like those big, a lot of those big organizations. So
Right.
it's that point, get all that common law stuff taken care of, the free stuff.
Right.
Copyrights create the or get protection on the way that it gets the way that it appears, and then the business side of things, it is like a gladiator stadium of like being able to actually produce the results to say that you're a
Right.
source of thing, instead of just like this is the way it looks. You stole my my painting or my photograph. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, it becomes about the money and the trademark sense. So having that mixture, I think a lot of people look at them like it's either or. So I
Right.
love that in the space, that like you should have both, and to understand the protections that they both provide you is
Right.
crucial.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the last thing we said was business structure. So
Okay.
personally with the DBA thing, like where does that fall on the list of a pocket knife of legal, what I
Okay.
mean, what a brand kind of needs, like DBA, doing business as, because I feel like that can help with a lot of people who have, myself included, you get what I'm saying, who have kind of like umbrella
Right.
concepts, what I mean, where it's like I want to do multiple things, but like, so speak to me a
Yeah.
little bit.
Okay. So the DBA is a doing business as, like you stated. One thing about it is it's cheaper than creating all these different companies, right? But the biggest thing with the DBA, it is not an entity. It attaches to whatever entity you already have. So when it comes to some of the people I spoke to who may be past clients or something, if you're really bootstrapping, but you want some type of identifier, sometimes doing a DBA from just you as you, who you are, can be something before you get to the stage of where you're ready to have an LLC and have those fees and have those taxes, things like that. So a DBA attaches to what it is. If you're a sole proprietor, you can make a DBA. Let's say I'm or I actually did a DBA when I first started my law firm. It was just, I'm Brieanna Singletary, and I created the Brieanna Singletary Law Firm, or Law Firm of Brieanna Singletary. $50,
Mm-hmm.
in my county.
Yep.
It's created. I mean, you could do it on the state level too, but we needed something quick, okay? So, and it just took
To open
on.
up a bank account, like when you need to open up a business bank account, like you need whatever's quicker. That's why I see people like, oh, I'll never do that. But it's like, if you just came up with an event and we run into it with like the bodega, you get what I'm saying? Like, like started to catch traction. It's like, oh, what account do we put that in? We'll open up a bank account. Well, what's the tax ID number? You get what I'm saying? Who's this? You know what I mean? That's why I categorize that as permission when I talk about like the business structure. Like, this isn't so much about protecting your name or anything like that creatively. It's about permission to just be able to buy and sell on American land. You know what I mean? Like, the government's model is to make money off of us. You get what I'm saying? To sell the American dream so that we make money for them. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's the way the structure's set up. So, they want to make sure they get all of their shit. You know what I mean? Like, they want to make sure they get their money.
They want it, and you want yours too. You know what I'm saying? You want yours in an easy way. So, and like you said with the EIN, definitely the EIN, definitely not commingling them funds. I'm gonna be honest though, in the beginning, you could get away with a little, like, I'm taking my, using my money to open it up, using my money to get the LLC. Yes, that's fine. But if you commingling, say again. Owner's contribution. Right, exactly. The capital that you need. But as far as commingling, like, I'm in my regular bank account paying for this, and then I'm gonna use my business account to pay for my hair, and then no. So EIN number, and again, EIN number is free, okay? And you don't have to have the LLC. Isn't that a county thing? Isn't that a county thing? EIN is federal. Employee. To get an EIN, you have to at least be a sole proprietorship to get an EIN, right? Yes, or actually, yeah. Well, no, I mean, because the thing with the EIN, no, you're right, you do, because they're gonna ask for your social security and stuff like that. But it's not. Is what I think. I think a lot of people register their business, but it's another step. You register your business, and then you get an EIN with that registered business, right? Well, and that's true. Well, I agree with you, but you actually don't have to have the business registered to get the EIN. It's actually, I didn't know that. I actually have to look that up for myself too, because I was telling people the same thing as you. The reason why you should do it like that is because when you want to make sure your EIN corresponds with the LLC for it to be easier to open a bank account, and also just to like have everything easily done. But you actually can go get your EIN now and then backtrack and get your LLC or whatever partnership, whatever you want to open later. It's just that if the name is already taken, now you got to figure out how to deal with that. That's why I say do the registration part first. And of course, you know, for sole proprietor or partnership, you don't actually register. You don't have to do any registration paperwork, anything like that.
Yeah.
But for LLC, corporation, S corp, you need to register with the state. I recommend people do that first, then go get their EIN, because now you know you got that name on lock, and you're gonna have the EIN on lock with that name as well.
Absolutely.
So that's what I say. But people have done it, you know, the opposite way, and sometimes it works out. So, but that EIN, making sure that you have that, and also it's building business credit. You building credit outside yourself. You know what I'm saying? You can build business credit, get a business credit card. I don't know all the credit stuff, so don't ask me. But
I wish
you know,
I did.
Right. Listen, I'm trying to learn. But yes, the EIN, LLC, and so with the DBA, you need something quick. You can create, you know, Brieanna Singletary DBA. Let's say Brieanna Art. Cool. And I can sell that and, you know, create more capital. So then I can become an LLC later, or you have LLC now, and let's say you want something else, because the DBA works great, like you said, when you want to diversify. So let's say I have Brieanna's Art, but I want to diversify and I want to sell cars. So I can say Brieanna's Art, DBA, Brieanna's Car Repair. Okay. Now the thing with the DBA, when it comes into the legal aspect, is those are connected, right? So what can happen, and this is, I'm talking like big scale. Let's say, you know, I have Brieanna's Art and I make Brieanna's food. And let's say something happens that my paint gets in somebody's food. Okay. They may be able to come for both the food and art, you know? So because there is a connection to that, of course, like I said, the damage would have to have a connection too, which sometimes it's not going to. That's why you kind of just do the DBA. But there is a line that someone can come in and penetrate if it's too close. But because again, the DBA is not its own entity. It's connected to the main entity. But
which has mainly implications.
Say that one more time.
It's mainly a tax implication.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
This is mainly for permission to pay taxes. You get what I'm saying? Under like who I need to come, whose door do I need to come knock on? If they get a check that says digital apparel printing, is it okay that it says Family Matters? You get what I'm saying? Or like if I'm depositing a digital apparel check or something into a Family Matters account, the DBA allows for that to be possible. Versus even if it's my own company and you wrote a check to Family Matters, and I try to deposit it into Digital Apparel's account, it won't. It's a no pass because of the name that's on the check.
Right.
But if it's DBA, essentially they're associated. Therefore, correct me if I'm wrong, they're interchangeable. You get what I'm saying? Like from a business commerce perspective.
Well, that's the only thing, because it's still kind of not, because I don't say the biggest thing with the DBA is kind of like the fast way to a new entity differentiation. You do still want to keep the money separate though, and you want a bank account with that new DBA. So what the DBA helps with is like, I'll say really for sole proprietors and someone who doesn't have the money for that LLC payment yet, I recommend DBA, because what can happen is, like I think you stated earlier, they can still open up a bank account with that DBA. You can still get the EIN, and now people can write checks to your business, which takes away liability from you. Because what happens is, even if they come and sue you and you're a sole proprietor, like, yes, it can get a little technical, but what happens is I have all this information showing that I'm doing this just together in this business, and it's separate from me paying my car payment, me paying rent on my house, me doing that. That's what helps in the beginning. Of course, LLCs are very popular because it's very cost effective and it helps with liability, right?
Yeah.
You're not liable solely. It's less than a corporation, because corporation taxes is wild, y'all. Don't, because I got a corporation for my business, for my law business, and also with LLC, you can actually do a tax election for S corp. The S corp, you get certain benefits, stuff like that. Go to a CPA though, y'all. I'm not an expert,
Yeah.
but I just know you can do that.
We filed the regular LLC. You get what I'm saying, and then did the tax election for S corp. So
Perfect.
that it's all the tax implication stuff because but they can be interchangeable to a degree. Like a corporation and an LLC aren't technically the same thing, right?
No, they're not.
Yeah, it's like a derivative. It's like LLC is a type of corporation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see what
Yeah,
you're saying. Yep. It
yeah.
is limited
You know what I
liability
mean? So
corporate. Yep.
yeah, so it's like there's but I think that so just kind of like having that spectrum for so when people are knowing how to go out there and get be able to pay taxes to the government, that's what it's all about. Just like how are you going to document the money? How is the government going to get their check, and whose name is going to be on the check? You get what I'm saying? That's writing it from, and yeah, that's so from a business structure standpoint. So we talked about DBA, so prop. So what else do you want to say about the structure stuff?
Really just like make sure that you talk about it. I would say that. Thinking about where you want to go down the line, especially for instance, someone like you who has multiple companies, right? How do you want that to look? How does the umbrella look for me? And what do I want to pay on all this stuff? Do I have time? Do I have the understanding?
But we just did that. That was a driving factor for our recent consolidation because you're right. As of now, I do own two businesses, Family Matters and Digital Apparel Printing, on paper. But what we've done even from a public standpoint is we've consolidated them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've just had a call with my accountant yesterday about like the implications of what it's going to mean for LLC. Do we do DBA here? I literally just had this conversation, and that's why I was saying that I don't need, one or the other doesn't need a particular structure. But obviously, I'm going to go with the EIN that's got the strongest history, that's got the strongest transaction history, that's got the longest standing credit. You get what I'm saying? Because the other one could kick rocks if it's not good. But at the same time, there's also a value of me keeping both, even if it's not on a public end. If I nurture them as EINs, you get what I'm saying, and I nurture them as separate entities, then that could be of a benefit. But like you said, I got to pay a different accountant. I got to pay annual fees on both. You get what I'm saying? I got to pay. So it comes with like at least a $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000 a year kind of, you know what I mean? Liability, which is like, okay, is it worth it to hold it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But, it can be, as long as you meet, like, as long as everything that we've talked about today, from the trademark to the copyright, as long as it's at least been taken into account to make sure that you're not stepping in one way or the other, it's really important to at least have that kind of insider perspective versus trying to, have everything done before you get started. I'm not, everything we just talked about, all the limits, the risks, liabilities, everything that we just talked about, there's very few things that I say, to really do before you start. You know what I mean? Because so much of it we create in our mind and we think these things through over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where once it's in the world, it may not even work, or it may not even last, or been all that worth that investment, or maybe I want to use an A instead of a 4. You get what I'm saying? Everything else is like yeah, it might just be a subtle change, but so many things would have to, would change. So it's like people, make sure that what you're doing is set in stone so that these things can become next options. Like the reason I wanted to get Family Matters trademarked was because we had gotten on Karma Loop. And that was the driving force, because I was like, okay, wow, this isn't going to be a local thing anymore. This is going to be something that somebody could have in some house in Dakota, in Ohio. And you get what I'm saying, over there. So that shifted my thinking of like, okay, well, I need this thing protected. You get what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
The opportunities, to have those opportunities in front, it's like when you protect yourself, you do create those opportunities as like, oh yeah, I've got that. Oh yeah, I've got that. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The key thing to go to franchising, like if you're trying to franchise the first two things, the only two required things are a trademark, a registered trademark, and operational manuals. Like if you have those two things, you're eligible to franchise. Without them, you can't, because you can't license the right.
You can't license your mark.
You know what I mean? So it's just that kind of like that bare minimum thing that like all these things have to be talked about. And especially from a creative standpoint, all creatives want to be in that realm. Of course, you want to think of the dope stuff. Of course, you only want to create and don't worry about it. Of course, there's all of the creative kind of like innocence of wanting to just be able to create with no rules. It's like, okay, it doesn't exist though. You know what I mean? And more than not, the rules that are in the game can direct your creativity so that you're doing things that are practically like, I don't think of an idea. Why would I think of an idea that I can't print?
Look,
Why
I'm
would
telling you.
I
And
graphic?
it's to protect you. It's to protect you in what you do. So
Exactly.
it's good. It's good.
Yep.
Exactly. And then, I mean, like I said, for a little bonus, number one thing, and like you said, because you talked about your accountant, you talked about your attorney, you talked about, the thing is knowing what you don't know. Like,
Pay the people.
I don't know CPA talk. I don't know all the tax ramifications. I don't know how the bank does this and this and this. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I do. And there's resources out there, even for those that may be in like a legal tangle. You have what's it called? Pro bono offices. Like in DC, I am attorney that helps with the pro bono business clinic. So we'll get out just, a few months ago, or maybe a month ago, a lady came, she got into this, incubator and, 50, 100 pages. And we look over it and kind of like say, hey, this is what you need to look at. This is what you need to try. 2 attorneys for free. There's resources out here. You don't have to be alone. Like you mentioned, making a account where you put $20 in the account and you maybe have some consults with some attorneys that you're interested in. And also now with solo attorneys, with Instagram, things are becoming more affordable.
This right here, I mean,
Right.
like the amount of that you've given as a lawyer, this is a $2,000, $4,000 conversation. You get what I'm saying? But that would, like, no bullshit. You get what I'm saying? That a lawyer to sit down and just have this long of a conversation is, it's important. So, and within this day and age, make sure, obviously, you guys make sure you follow her, and you know what I mean. Tap in and don't blow her Instagram DMs up if she's got. This time costs, but like you said, like it's accessible. Like even when I called and had the conversation with the franchise lawyer that I'm going to hire, the reason I know that when I get it right, I'm going to hire him is because the first conversation that we had, obviously he told me his fee is $25,000. You get what I'm saying? That's like, he's like, yeah, it's 25,000. I might get you down for 22. You get what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, like, okay, well, but the conversation that we had, you get what I'm saying? It was worth, he invested in me enough to say, like, when I do have it, that's the guy I'm paying for it. So there's, big conversations that like they'll have to help direct you. And most importantly, turn you into a customer. Boom. If you're not a customer, they should qualify you. You get what I'm saying? If you're not qualified, then you're not qualified.
Right.
But there's a business model somewhere, whether it be a pro bono thing, a free thing on Instagram, whatever it might be, that's available, a Google search away, a Reddit post away, you get what I'm saying, a clubhouse room away, like all of these things, there's conversations, there's people here, you can raise your hand, ask questions, and, even like this conversation, like you've hardened so much of my understanding about, you know what I mean, trademark and copyright, because anything that I would ever say, I would be so convicted about because I went through it. But I didn't do the research. You get what I'm saying? I went through it and I know what I know and I picked what I picked. You get what I'm saying? And I know the lay of the land to a degree, you know what I mean? But to be able to have a professional who went to school, who committed the time to actually, go through that process to understand it is just, is epic. And I just thank you, for everything that you dropped on me, on anybody that's on the live, and just, I just appreciate you. It's been a heck of a conversation.
Yeah, it has. I appreciate you having me. We see it. Everyone on Instagram, we see the information you try to put out, how you try to help, the community. I mean, that's part of like what you've been doing ever since I met you at the gas station for the t-shirts, You always been someone who try to make things accessible, let people learn through your journey. So I'm sure everyone appreciates it. We appreciate watching the journey flourish. And yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
It's my pleasure. It has been. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to commit to this. I'm, on a more frequent basis, the entity, you get what I'm saying? Like more so these conversations, especially with brands, especially with people that are trying to, make money on merchandise, because there's opportunities that exist. You get what I'm saying? Where if you play within these rules, that's what makes you eligible. And, to be able to have somebody that's, firsthand, like that's got that barrier already down. You, like you said, you've come through, you've worked with the Whitaker Group. If you work with the Whitaker Group, you gotta say you got a stamp of.
Listen, you already know how that goes.
Solid.
It's a tester. It's a test. You learn a lot, but it's a test, baby.
Yeah, it's a test at least. You get what I'm saying? So like, if if you lasted at the Whitaker Group for longer than, you get what I'm saying, 6 months, then you know what I mean. You got a stamp on you. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, no, but that's, it's, I love to see it. I'm excited to, just to watch, watch you do your thing. I'm gonna make sure that I get all your information. If you
Okay.
have, like newsletter stuff that you put out, I could syndicate it to my brands because, just being in the loop and just knowing who to go to and how to make it happen, I think, can hopefully drum you up some prospective clients because damn sure I don't want to do it. I'll say what I can say about, you know what I mean, the scope of
Right.
it, but everybody's always going to start with get a lawyer. You get what I'm saying? Just pay the lawyer because they'll know how to maneuver. They'll have the comfortability to raise questions and when to knock on that door and when not to. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? When to cry wolf and when not to. You know what I mean? Like those things, those nuances are so important. I feel like for creative people, especially in this kind of like instant kind of world. And like, I mean,
Absolutely.
seen it happen. Like my guy, a customer of ours, is doing $200,000 a month.
Oh
He
wow.
popped t-shirts. You get what I'm saying? Just like online, like just going. You know what I mean? Like it can shift like that. So it's like there's just setting yourself up to win. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate your commitment to my community and to everybody who watched. And we're gonna obviously we're gonna repurpose this in some videos as well. A lot of
Okay.
those to take and just kind of like make them solidify them because it's just understanding the difference and knowing to I feel like when people aren't comfortable, they won't be vulnerable to say they don't know. You
Right.
know what I mean? And like, I just want to put it out there so people don't have to even have that encounter. Like, look, if
True.
you do, or if you don't know, here's what I know about it. Contribute what you do know. You know what I mean? And that way we can just continuously, make progress because,
Absolutely.
that's how the world wins.
Yeah. I'm with
Yeah,
it. Let me
let's get
know.
for sure. We'll do this again soon. God willing, I appreciate you. Appreciate all the information. Make sure to tag you in all the posts, and we'll
Okay.
and just like I said, send me any if you're looking for new clients. Tell people where just follow you and your website. Is that you got that link already up and everything, and,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah. Or I'll
yeah,
put it in the comments too, I guess. But
yeah, yeah,
or just send it to you. But yeah, you guys can find me at Brieanna Bugatti LLC on the gram and Facebook. And then my website is www.briannabugatti. Let me put that. BrieannaBugatti.com. And then yeah, you can DM me, shoot me a DM if you want to email me info@BrieannaBugatti.com as well. Ooh, my whole little screen shaking trying to type this in. But yeah, that's it. I'm pretty responsive. I mean, hey, I'm a small business owner. So, number one
okay,
thing is customer service. You know,
absolutely,
I hey, I mean, that's what it is. I guess my thing too is like if you win, I win, like everyone being happy helps me gain more clients,
mm,
helps me
exactly,
brag. So that's another thing that's a little different from like LegalZoom. It doesn't work. They got more customers coming in, they got more clients coming in. For me, it's like I got to make sure my clients have a great, understanding, perspective, and experience with me. That's how I'm able to grow. But yeah, copyrights, trademarks, whatever kind of business, contractual things you have, it depends because sometimes that could take a lot of time. But yeah, I'm willing to work with, who, of course, my niche and my love is really like fashion, streetwear, the retail aspect of things, but all business owners. I have various clients, mostly retail product, like fashion service based stuff. But yeah, that's what I love. That's what I do. I mean, I got into law because I wanted to find a way where like I could tell people how much I want to charge, but also bring what I know and love about streetwear and fashion together with
yeah,
law because there's such it was just going through law school. It was just such like there was just like this little piece that I'm like, yo, this little piece is missing. And I
yeah.
mean, fashion law is new. It's also new coming. It hasn't been around that long.
Wow,
So yeah, that's what I'm about. So hit me up,
that's,
y'all check in. Let me know what you need. Let me know what you're looking to see, and I can help.
let's get it. The fashion lawyer. That's what's
Yeah.
up.
Yes, yes.
That's
But
like that.
yeah, thank you again for having me. I'm about to duck out and get to this other work.
Oh,
You already know how it goes.
sure. But
Um,
yeah, we'll touch base soon. I appreciate you, and we'll talk in a little bit. All right.
all right. Sounds good. You guys have a great week. I'll holler at ya.
For sure. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.